Hello everyone and welcome to Belgium. We're here in front of the beautiful port house of Antwerp, which is our starting point today, before we move just a few kilometers where INEOS is currently performing their massive greenfield investment with their Project ONE and their new steam cracker. Most of EU chemistry today starts with a steam cracker. This is where feedstock from refineries, or in the case of Project ONE, from natural gas extraction, are converted into base chemicals like ethylene and propylene. The usual lifetime of a steam cracker is between 40 and 50 years, and the last one in the EU was built 25 years ago. An important fact, the INEOS cracker will be one of the very few in Europe that will run on ethane, as the vast majority of steam crackers in Europe currently run on oil-based naphtha. So let's go and meet the INEOS team to find out more. Hi John, thanks so much for having us here.
You're welcome.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself first?
So my name is John McNally and I am the CEO of INEOS Project ONE.
And what is exactly Project ONE?
So Project ONE is an ethane cracker that's going to make 1.5 million tons of ethylene per annum. And ethylene is the basic building block of the petrochemical industry.
How is this project contributing to the transition of the chemical sector?
So it's new technology, and if you compare new technology in any industry compared to very old technology decades old, you get a transformation. So this particular plant will have 1/2 the CO2 footprint compared to the next best cracker in all of Europe. And that's because we're using new technology. And we're doing more than that, we're making it future-proof in the sense that if we can get our hands on enough low-carbon hydrogen, we can go from a fantastic footprint on carbon emissions to zero carbon emissions going into the future. And no other plant in Europe can say that.
A project of this magnitude is going to change the landscape of the chemical industry in Europe, right?
It's a mega project, it's 4 billion euros plus, and it's the largest investment in petrochemicals in Europe in over 2 decades.
So while talking to your team earlier, we heard that the project uses an innovative modular construction design. Can you tell us what that means exactly?
Absolutely. So if you look behind us, you see these blocks. They were all made separately in other parts of the world and then shipped over here by very large ships and then struck together. So it's a bit like Lego blocks. You make them elsewhere, bring them together, and then stitch them together. Why do we do that? 2 main reasons. One is we simply haven't got the space to build something like that from sticks, from scratch. You go somewhere else where you've got very, very large yards right against the deep port, and you build them over there and then bring them over here. The second reason is we don't have the expertise in Northwest Europe to do this anymore. We've got pieces of work going on right here, but the number of people that have to build these on other parts of the world, you need access to welders, you need access to engineers that can do this type of thing, and frankly in Northwest Europe we haven't got that anymore.
Hello Ralph, we heard a little bit from John about how INEOS is building the state-of-the-art steam cracker. You're the technology manager at Project ONE. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of technologies this project relies on?
Yeah, sure. Hello Jana first. So yeah, we are standing in front of the big ethane tank here, which is the biggest cryogenic ethane tank in Europe with 197,000 meter cubes, which allows us to unload big ships and reduce our transportation travels. Ethane is the feedstock for our cracker. It is the most efficient one and the most selective one for production of ethylene, and that's the building block we are after. Furthermore, we add best available techniques like air preheat in our furnaces, modern furnaces of course, the cracking furnaces. And then we have a highly heat integrated cracker overall, plus we have heat pump technology involved, so also best available technology. All that results in a very low energy consumption of around 80% of the current crackers in Europe. That is also one part of the low CO2 emissions. So low energy consumption means less fuel needed, less CO2 emissions. Secondly, ethane as a feedstock, not only selective for ethylene production, but also producing hydrogen. And that hydrogen is used as a fuel in our furnaces. So that doesn't produce any CO2, but delivers the heat we need. But not only CO2 was reduced, also we reduced nitrogen oxide emissions by having, again, best available technology, low NOx burners, and so-called selective catalytic reduction, where we inject ammonia to reduce the nitrogen oxide to nitrogen. Forgotten to mention that we purchase power for the entire site here. All that power is purchased from renewable wind power sources, and that makes the entire site to a very low energy consumption and low CO2 emitting and NOx emitting project.
So John, how long did it take to get Project One from an idea to a realization?
So we started thinking about this quite a few years ago, 2017, 2018. We announced it to the world in 2019, and then we hit COVID, but luckily we were at the engineering phase at that time, so we went through COVID relatively unscathed. If we had COVID now, it would have been a catastrophe. You saw how many people are out on that site. But in reality, a project of this scale takes 5 or 6 years.
The current economic climate is not very favorable for the EU chemical industry, and how has that impacted the project?
Not a lot, because this project is really for decades. We're going to build this plant, it's going to be functional by the back end of 2026, and then it's going to run for 20, 30 years. So we're really looking longer term at the economics, not just the immediate economics today. Having said that, there are issues that are fundamental to petrochemicals in Europe. Certainly the price of energy is ridiculously high in Europe, and that we need to get after. We need to find an integrated energy policy. Electricity costs 3 times here what it costs in the United States. Natural gas, which is going to fuel our plant, costs 5 times the amount it costs in the United States. And so I think Europe has to address that issue, but it needs to do that over the years to come.
Hello, Nathalie. You are Project One's External Relations Manager. What has been your experience with working with stakeholders?
Well, it's been an interesting ride, of course, because Project One is a very exceptional project, an investment of over 4 billion euros. So you can imagine that in Flanders this project was met with a lot of interest from the Flemish authorities, amongst others. Early supporters were Flanders Investment and Trade, but also the Port of Antwerp-Bruges and the Chemical Federation Essentia. And of course, when we do such a project, we take care of the local environment. We find it very important to keep local residents up to date about our project. So we frequently share updates. We are a member of the local advisory board, and we also developed a Project One dedicated website.
What were some of the bigger hurdles and challenges that you had to face while working on this project?
Well, a mega project like Project One obviously has many challenges to deal with, but a very huge challenge was the permitting journey. For example, only in terms of hours of work and administration involved, we wrote thousands of pages altogether to finalize our permit application. And then all of a sudden, in the summer of 23, we were confronted with the loss of our permit. And that has actually caused a standstill of our construction site in Antwerp for almost half a year. Luckily, we were granted a new permit, but this has caused a lot of delay and a lot of legal insecurity, which is actually very detrimental for a mega investment like ours. What do you think? Do you want to see some more things on site?
I'd love to.
Follow me.
Here we are in the busy cafeteria during lunch hour. It is full of workers. Can you tell me a little bit about the skills required of the workforce at Project One?
Sure. It looks crowded because we are indeed entering the peak of construction activities here in Antwerp, because 2025 is the year that the site will really go vertical, because we are going to integrate all incoming plant modules. Now, although mechanical completion of our site is only due end of 2026, we are already fully hiring people. We actually have 200 vacancies right now for operators, for technical skills, because a site, a chemical plant, a cracker like this is not switched on overnight.
We're just about finishing our visit here at INEOS. Let's go find John to hear if he has any final remarks. Well, John, we learned a great deal from you and your team today. Do you have any final remarks that you want to share with us?
Well, I'm glad that you could come, and what I would say is ethylene is the building block of the petrochemical industry. And what is scary, I think, for European petrochemicals is of the 24 large projects going on around the world today, building new ethylene capacity, only one is happening in Europe. So Project One is named because our owner likes the idea that there would be Project 2, Project 3, Project 4, and for the health of the industry, we do need Projects 2, 3, and 4 to follow after Project One.
That's it for today. Thank you for joining us in Antwerp. If you're curious to know more about what the European chemical industry is doing on its way to transition, watch our other videos and follow us on social media.